I do usually publish my video for my Fighter of the Year around this time of month, and I usually miss out the last event, or the events between then and the new year. There is one more event coming up which I want to do predictions for, but I also want to say that because of someone who is on this card, I actually need to wait and see on the results before I can actually make my video, because legitimately speaking it's quite close this year, and I'm going to wait and see what happens in the last card, because I think that could have an effect. So let's have a look at it. It is Rafael dos Anjos and Donald Cerrone. You will know that Rafael dos Anjos has acquired the title, and this is a defence against someone who's had rather a good year, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Do you know, I have nothing against Rafael dos Anjos at all, and I don't really mind the outcome of this. I am slightly more familiar with Donald Cerrone, and rather hope that if he, I do think this is his chance. I think if he gets this, it will be great. I'm not sure what will happen really in the long term if he doesn't, because I don't know if he will get back to the sort of contendership position again in his career. So it's quite important for him, I suppose. And we shall just have to see. We shall just have to see what happens there. Let's move on. We've got Junior Dos Santos and Alistair Overeem. This one is two stand-up fighters. Quite evenly matched as well, I do feel. Bizarrely enough, I fancy Junior Dos Santos and his chances here, so I'm going to go for him on that one. Michael Johnson and Nathan Diaz. Michael Johnson is seeded number 5. Nathan Diaz is seeded number 14. However, I do think that on the ground Nathan Diaz could win this one. I'm not so sure about the stand-up, and when it goes to decision, it's almost always against him. So I think if he plays a good ground game here, he does stand to win that one. There's a women's bout on the card. Randa Marcos, seed number 8, is fighting Carolina Kowal, something or other. Randa has a record of 5-3 and a photograph. Poor Carolina, she may have a perfect record of 7, but she does not have a picture on the site. I am going to go therefore with Randa Marcos here. Charles Oliveira and Miles Jury, near number 7 and number 9 respectively. Well, this is going to be groundsman versus striker, with Charles on the ground. It's probably not going to go to decision, this one, so it's going to depend. I think Charles Oliveira is on his way up, I have to say. Not so sure now about Miles Jury. I think even though he's got a record of 15-1, not so sure. I think he has to win this one. I'd like him to win this one, so I'm going to choose for him there. CB Dollaway and Nathan Marquardt. An interesting fight, this one. They have CB Dollaway here as being a stand-up fighter. Nathan Marquardt obviously good on the ground. I don't know about that one. Nathan Marquardt isn't actually seeded, whereas CB Dollaway is, even if it's number 12. That one I don't know. That one could be an interesting one, that one. Sarah Kaufman and Valentina Shevchenko. Sarah is number 6. The other one doesn't even have a picture, again. So I'm going to go for the former on that. Josh Salmon is fighting Tamden McCrory. Tamden McCrory is not new, so I don't know why they don't have a picture of him on the site here. That is a little rude, I feel. But there we are. This is going to be a stand-up war, probably, but in fact they statistically are matched very evenly, both in stand-up and on the ground, and exactly the same with decision, 8% for each of them. 67-54 on the feet to Josh, 38-25 on the ground to Tamden. So it is anybody's fight, this. I shall be interested to see. I think the safe money, well, I'm not sure there is any safe money for that one, to be honest. Again, the records are close, 12-3 and 13-3. Nick Lentz and Danny Castillo, two fighters I like, in fact, so this will be good. Strange to see them quite so far down on the card, but there we are. 27-7 for Nick Lentz, who is number 10 seeded. 17-9 for Danny Castillo, who's been around a very long time. And goodness knows what's going to happen here, really. I wouldn't be surprised if this one went all the way to decision. And there's no use looking at the statistics because they don't help here. Both of them are 41% in fact for decision. So, do you know, I don't know. I don't know with that. I would probably err towards Nick Lentz on that. Cole Miller is fighting Jim Allers. Again, Cole Miller has been around a long time. Disappointing to see him so low on the card as well. 21-9 versus 13-2. It is the experience that's going to win him this match, if anything. This is in fact two groundsmen here, 71% and 69%. So it should be an interesting match on the ground, that one. The undercard, there's Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. I don't know that one at all, to be honest. According to this, how's that possible? According to this, we've got 17% submission for Kamaru, but nothing for TKO, nothing for decision. So I'm not quite sure how that works out statistically. I don't know if that's just not right mathematically, is it? I don't know. I don't know who's going to win that one. Haider Hassan and Vincent Leque. Not sure I've even heard of these. Wouldn't be surprised. They all have 0% for everything in terms of statistics. 6-2 versus 7-5. I don't know. I don't know that one. And Lewis Henrique and Francis Ngannou. Again, goodness only knows this one. 8-1 versus 5-1. I don't know. No pictures for either of them. Not sure I've ever heard of either of them either. So there we are. In terms of speaking about the recent matches that have gone on, because obviously you know that I don't do, or I haven't been doing Fighter of the Month recently. I sort of lost my way with that a little bit time-wise. I don't do recap videos anymore, but I was using those sort of once a month roundup to be able to also talk about certain things in mixed martial arts. The last bout, the last card, which was 193, 194, something like that, I forget which one it was. There are several things that do need to be sort of discussed about that. First, it's a shame that the organisation didn't put more into Chris Friedman and Luke Rockhold, because that was a very interesting fight. You know, it's funny because I feel Chris has had a bad time, because a lot of people were, you know, very sceptical when he first took the belt, and then they acted when he managed to beat Anderson Silva a second time, like, well, it was old news, yes, obviously. And then he's sort of been a little bit suppressed, I suppose, the coverage of other people overshadowing him, and now he's lost the title, and hopefully he can get that back, but it wasn't a close thing, really. The other thing is I'm not sure about Luke Rockhold. I haven't done enough research, really, into knowing what he's like as a person, and I feel personally that matters, and this could be a rather old school way of looking at it, but you know, these people are role models as well as athletes and as well as entertainers, and the institution is not interested particularly in the sport. I don't think they're even interested particularly in the fighters. They're certainly not interested in paying them what they should. What they're interested in is making money, and the encouragement of some of the, what I would consider bad behaviour, I suppose, from people at contendership level and people that now have titles, is detrimental to the sport, because you know, you have a load of people say, well, it's all about wide coverage, isn't it? It's brilliant that it's getting out there, that people are knowing about it, but they don't really know about it. That's part of the problem. They are fair weather and fickle, to say the least. They've heard a few names. They don't really understand what they are seeing from a sort of sports perspective. They tend to believe the hype. They tend to mimic the people that are badly behaved, I suppose, in what they say. You know, Conor McGregor is a perfect example, and you know, I've said this all along. I've said this about other people as well. Conor McGregor is an asset, and the reason they are pushing him has nothing to do with his fighting skills. It's got everything to do with cracking a market that they don't yet fully sort of own, I suppose. The same thing is going on with Conor McGregor that they tried with Michael Bisping before. It's the same thing. If he wasn't Irish, they would be treating him very, very differently. And I think we ought to remember that. I think the other thing that we ought to remember is that, you know, Jose Aldo has been out for a very, very long time and has recovered from injury. It is quite possible that what happened was as much a result of maybe that injury or the ring rust as it was anything to do with Conor being exceptional. I think the other thing is, clearly Aldo forgot that he was fighting a southpaw. I mean, that was quite obvious. You know, and that is interesting that, you know, and this is the thing that people who don't have a deep grounding in the arts will miss. You know, they won't understand what they're seeing. They now are probably going to think that Conor is absolutely unbeatable, and the institution are certainly capitalising on this success by trying to say, yes, to take another title at another weight division as quickly as possible, because the moment he faces somebody who has a strong ground game and can take him down, is the moment that he will truly be tested. And he may turn out to be, like Anderson Silva, somebody who was fast-tracked to a title, but really is good enough to reign for, you know, eons and eons and eons. Or more likely he will become a byword, you know, shortly. But don't worry, because the Fairweather fans will have somebody else to shout about, you know, some other name. And do I think that's good for the sport? No, actually I don't. Because until they actually learn what they are seeing and understand what's going on, it's all entertainment for cash. And it's cash that, you know, they don't know what they're betting on at all. They don't know. They don't understand. And the institution are, you know, ripping off the fans and ripping off the athletes. And I think it's terrible. I think it's horrible. I really do. And I feel that needs to be said. So there we are. I've said it.